Hey, welcome back to this part two or day two of a 10-part video series on Microsoft Azure Cloud free full course for absolute beginners. And in this, we're going to look at a resource group, management groups, and within resource group, we'll look at management groups, subscriptions, resources, and resource groups basically. Now, if you missed that part one, I would highly recommend you to look at so you can understand the full context, what we are doing, and especially the first 10-15 minutes to understand what we are covering, even if you're familiar with that. And so you can check it out by going to K21Academy.com/Azure day one. And with that, this is Atul. Let's go jump straight to onto the resource group and resource organizations as well. And at the start as well, make sure that you feel this just to very quickly, if you've jumped on this video directly, this clip has been taken from day one of our Azure job entry bootcamp. So if you hear some question answers, try to see if you can answer those questions. If you're new, make sure that you pay special attention to those questions. If you have any questions, leave them under comment section as well. And feel free to play in 1.5x or 2x. And also, if you're going to get notified, if you've not yet joined our community, join them in by going to k20academy.com/Azure WA. And let's hit on now this part two.
Okay, so now coming to the Azure resources. Okay, so what is Azure resources basically? So resources are, in a layman language, if I want to say, so in Microsoft they are calling it out as in resources. So whatever services we are provisioning known as Azure resources, it can be anything. Okay, compute, network, storage, serverless, or any particular service what we are considering, big data services, whatever, anything and everything what we provision in Azure is called as resource. Resources basically available, or they are part of resource provider. I'll talk about what is resource provider and all that. So in general, if I wanted to explain in a way, so in Azure, how it works. So it's all starts with something like this. So in particular organization, we do have these kind of structure in place. It starts with management group. I'll explain what is this and all that. So we can start with management group. Okay. Under management group, we can have even multiple management group. So what is management group basically all about? So when I was talking about that restaurant chain project, right? So restaurant chain project has almost around like 7 to 8 restaurant brand under the root company. So management group basically you can depict management group as an organizational identity. Okay. So this is like, so in that restaurant chain, there was a parent company, parent restaurant chain company, and they were having different restaurant brands, and each brands has their particular restaurant outlet somewhere, and they were having their particular services up and running, or their applications or environment up and running into that respective hierarchy. So here I can say management group is basically, it's a kind of organizational structure which allows you to define the organizational structure, and then you can have your services to be up and running into that respective organization, whatever we have, right? So it's like business unit inside the business unit, whatever we do have, or the organization what we have, right? You can go up to 7 ladder, including top root management group. So you can have root management will be the one. and nested to that, you can have six nested group will be available. So here I can consider that in case of planning and providing any management group, this is something, let's say if I have sales, for example, sales department may have two nested management group probably. This one is like again maybe marketing probably. This can be any other management group, right? It depends. Like I'm just giving like name. Maybe if you think about restaurant chain, then they have seven restaurant brand, and each restaurant brand has their own particular management group. So management group is basically organizational unit under your organization itself. It can be root management group only, or it can be a sub management group also available. It is completely up to the business. If I have a startup, let's say I don't have this management group, I don't have any business unit. I'm just like startup, so I'll work with my root management group only. I don't need all this structure, right? It is completely up to us that what sort of layer you have, organizational structure you have, and then accordingly you may work with that. Each management group can have a valid commercial value available in the form of subscription, right? So every management group can have one, minimum one, more than one subscription to be available as a part of that management group. So you can provision services under that. So subscription is basically offers you pay as you go, enterprise agreement, different type of payment model supported to the subscription. Each subscription can have one or more than one resource group in place. So what is resource group basically? I'm just trying to show you the hierarchy or ladder, how it works or how it looks in Azure. You have mandatory resource group in place. So if you are coming from AWS background, then there is nothing called resource group in AWS. It is there. I mean, later AWS also launched resource group, but whatever service you provision, they get provision under the region directly. There is nothing called resource group. So here, what Microsoft did, they created a layer called resource group. And the purpose of creating this layer is to organize your resources under that resource group so that you can manage your identity access management, access control, and many other activities with this particular resources. So here we can have resources, right? So these resources are nothing, but as I said, like compute, network, storage, whatever it is, those things will become your resources. Now here we can have people at different business unit level. You may have people working at different business unit level, and they all have access according to that. So you need to plan, you need to organize, you need to define a particular structure that how you want to operationally manage and work with your services, what sort of distribution you are looking into your organization. It includes your budgeting, your service provisioning, access control, management of your operations, service access, everything will be taken care under this particular structure. So here, whenever we are talking about resources, resource group, it will help you out to understand that how you can organize the structure of your resources and what sort of like layer you can have and how you can connect and access those services into the system. Let me know if you have any queries or question on this.
I, please, I don't understand the resource group. Can you explain it more better?
Yes, sure. So here resource group is basically, if I go to the portal itself, here we have a resource group. Okay. So here we are creating different set of resources, right? In my organization, I wanted resources like compute, or maybe you can say network. I need storage. So you can think of application. Okay. In application, what all the resources you need? You need compute, you need storage, you need database, you need network, right? And there are many different services you needed to keep your application up and running, right? So under this particular components, or maybe you can say whenever you want to run this particular to keep your application up and running, you need these particular resources to be created. So here, resource group is basically a kind of placeholder. If I want to explain in a layman language, resource group is basically a kind of a placeholder under which you can place all relative resources to that particular environment. So this can be application, this can be environment like dev, stage, or prod environment, right? So you may have environment, you may have applications, you may have relative resources. So you can club those particular services under single umbrella so that it will become easy for you to operationally manage them, right? Say for example, in a layman language, if I want to explain why we create folder, so folder is something providing you a kind of option where you can place all your files and folders under same location so that it will become easy for you to operationally manage your particular files and folder, correct? So you can delete, you can provide access, and many other things you can do it with that particular folder. The only difference over here is that folder allows you to create nested folder. Here in resource group, it will not allow you to create nested resource group. It's just the simple flat layer which give you all the logical grouping of your resources under single umbrella, and then you can maintain them accordingly. So let's say if I have an application, I will say I have a sales app, right? So I will put all sales app resources under the sales app resource group. So it will become easy for me to manage and organize those resources into that. And managing resources, not just only the option, but you can get the cost, you can create, delete, update, manage all those activity. You can do it with very ease with the help of this particular resource group as in a layer. Does that make
So,
sense?
yes, which means if I delete the resource group, everything about the sales app is going to be deleted.
Exactly. So we have to take care this resource group very carefully. You cannot create any resource in Azure without resource group. It is mandatory part in Azure. To manage your resources, you have to have resource group. If you want to delete individual resource, that option is available. But if you delete resource group, then everything gets deleted from that resource group. Resource group
Do
can
I delete,
span
delete,
across
delete it
multiple region as
individually?
well. Sorry, go ahead.
I said, how do I delete it individually?
Yeah.
Because
So that option is
just
available. Say for example, if I go to this resource group, for example, here is my service. If I select, here
mhm.
is the option, uh, delete.
Okay.
So I can delete individual resource only. So if I click on delete, it will prompt you before deleting that, okay, do you really want to delete? So you can type delete keyword and then delete that resource only. But
So it's
here
going
if
to
I
delete
say
everything on the application.
only that, yeah, only that service only, or only that resource. But if I
Okay.
say delete resource group, then it will clean up everything belongs to that resource group.
Okay. Okay.
And single resource group can hold services or resources coming from different region as well. So that means right now in this resource group, I have services hosted only in East US. It may be possible I wanted to host some of the service in West US region as well because they are relative to this application only. But my team is sitting in West US. So that's the reason I'm hosting that service in this resource group so that if any management and operation require pertaining to that, application, then I will be able to take care of it. Make sense? So resource group basically span across a region, and it will be a kind of logical grouping, logical layer, which helps you to maintain your services under that environment. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. Okay, I see there are a couple of other questions. Can I have chronology, management group, or maybe you can say subscriptions and all that? Okay. So chronology is more about like, as I said, organizational structure. What you can consider that whenever any enterprise basically wants to go ahead with their organizational structure to be created, then in that case, they prefer that, okay, there will be a root management organization, and under that, they have sub-organization in place. So it is completely up to the organization to organization. As I said, like if I am a startup, I don't have this business unit in place at all, right? I am provisioning my all services directly into that main root management group only. So then you may have subscription associated to your root management group only. Your resource group, your resources belongs to that root management group only. So that way the ladder goes on. So in general, management group always sits on top. Below that, you can have along with that management group, you can have subscription. Under subscription, you can have resource group. Under resource group, you can have resources. And the people who belongs to that particular management group can have access, permission, access control, everything defined accordingly, and they will be able to work with those activity. And as I said, one management group can have multiple subscription in place. It is completely up to us that how we wanted to handle that, and accordingly you may have multiple subscriptions available, and you will be able to provide that options altogether. Make sense? I hope that answers the question.
Um, I have a question too.
Go ahead.
Yeah, see, you said it can span multiple regions, right? Under
Okay.
one subscription, is it like multiple regions, or do we need to have a separate subscription for that region under the resource group? See, if you want to have a VNet in one region, I have a business in one region, and of course, like you said, if you have another one, another replication in, say, US, you create the VNet kind of under one resource group, or else do we need to have a separate subscription for that specific region, or any kind of like the availability zone must be there also, right? So I'm just thinking about whether we need a separate kind of subscription in that region. Yeah.
Okay. So, to answer to your question, there are two perspectives. One is basically we will discuss more in detail about networking, where we have this option, where we are going to talk that what all the features are supported from the networking perspective. So we have within region, across subscription. If we have VNet, then what all the circumstances we can follow so that we can establish the communication. That is one way. So I'll explain that particular scenario in networking part. Now, second thing, to answer to your question about the resource group. Now, under single region, under single subscription, you can have single resource group with multiple uh, resource deployed in different region. So resource group can have multiple services hosted in different region, and that will be applicable only in single subscription. And maybe if you have single resource group or multiple resource group, it is up to you how you want to do it. Is it application wise? Is it environment wise? Is it service wise? How you want to do it? That is something completely up to you in terms of control you have. But if I'm considering single resource group only, then single resource group can have multiple services hosted in multiple region. So that is something by default we need to think through that way. Now, if I have another subscription, and there in that case I have hosted another services in another region, then it is completely different particular access control, different environment, and different services. So there is nothing to do with the previous subscription. They both are running independently. So each subscription has their own access, own services, own regions, and all that particular provisioning. Later, we can learn that if we want to connect all of them with each other, what all the alternatives, what all the networking and options are available. So these are the two separate things. Resource group, just we need to understand in a simple way that it's a logical grouping, logical layer, which allows you to control, manage, access operationally your services under single umbrella so that it will become easy for you to operationally work with those services. Whereas connection, accessing, and all that at subscription level, at region level, we can understand in a separate way where the connection and other things comes into picture. Make sense?
Okay, so you're saying that under one resource group, resources can span across multiple regions. Am I getting that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Okay, there is one more question under one account, many subscriptions. Yes. Jacob says logical grouping, naming isolation of all necessary resource from network to compute, hosting of app. Yes, absolutely. Naming convention and resource tagging. These are the two important aspects of your service provisioning in any cloud for the governance point of view, right? Nowadays, many enterprises moving into cloud, but they are losing traction because of bad governance in cloud. And that too, they do have solutions up and running in multi-cloud. So in that case, if you do not follow proper logical grouping, naming conventions, isolations, and all of them, then it will become nightmare in terms of operationally handling those services in cloud. So it is very much a kind of useful, or you can say kind of mandatory part where you need to define that governance activity to be followed in terms of cloud services in that case. Yeah, so that is something will really helps. Ravi says, can a resource group be duplicated? No, Ravi, resource group cannot be duplicated. You cannot have same name of resource group in the same subscription. You can duplicate, but you can export that resource group and import in some other subscription, but not into the same subscription. If you want to duplicate, then maybe you need to rename it or add some other name and then you can duplicate it. Yeah, so that way it works. Bhavesh says is root management group also called tenant in Azure. So tenant is something you can consider. Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of some of the alternative words are there. So when we reach to that options with Microsoft Entra ID and all that, I will explain about that part. But management group is something where you can say it's a kind of layer which allows your organization to get structure and place your resources and other things into that particular system. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, so let's move forward. So here, so far we talked about this resource group, resources and all that. Now here, as I said, the structure, the hierarchy of management group, it's basically start from top where we can have subscriptions, we can have resource groups, we can have resources belongs to that, and it will basically help you out in terms of planning and working with those particular services in place. So enterprise point of view, you can plan and manage, or maybe you can say you can design that what kind of solution we are looking at it, and accordingly you may simply go ahead with your structure created, and then accordingly you will be able to work with your services in place. Now here there are different type of subscriptions available in Azure. It starts with pay as you go. You can have subscriptions in terms of you can say free trial, MSDN subscription, enterprise agreement, CSP, cloud service provider subscription. So different type of subscriptions are there, and these subscriptions are basically like you can consider that these particular subscriptions are a kind of criteria where you will be able to plan and manage and work with your environment, or maybe you can say work with your services altogether in terms of cloud point of view. So here we need to identify that in case of planning and working with your end-to-end solution, or planning and working with your particular organizational structure point of view, you can plan your budget, you can plan your particular resource consumptions and all of that, and accordingly you will be able to play around with your particular cost related activities in place. So ultimately, like the goal over here is that to identify, or maybe you can say visualize, that what sort of cost management you have, and then accordingly you can simply plan and maintain, and accordingly you will be able to go through with your enterprise grade services into the system, and then accordingly you will be able to think of like how this service is going to be, and you may plan your overall solution or overall activity for the services what we are looking at it. So it's a kind of you can say approach available from the Azure point of view, where you will be able to play around with your specific services, and then according to that you will be able to go through with your management group, and many other activities to be taken care into the consideration, and then that way you will be able to maintain those services into the system what we are looking at it. So ultimately, it's a kind of approach you can have in place, and according to that specific approach, probably you will be able to go ahead with your end-to-end solution or end-to-end services to be taken care into the consideration, and then accordingly you will be able to use them into the enterprise world what we are looking at it. So subscription is basically a different type of subscriptions available. So you can have resource subscriptions, resource group and management group. With the combination of all of that, you can plan your environment, you can plan your particular services altogether, and it will help you out in terms of planning and working with your services, and you will be able to go ahead with them in terms of your organizational structure whatever we have.
Well, that was our expert, and thank you so much for staying with us till the end of the video. Now all you have to do is just click the link in the description below, or if you are just starting out, just type k21academy.com/azure02. Now all you have to do is just enter a name, enter email ID, enter phone number, and click on register now, and you will be redirected to this page. You can also add this to your Google Calendar or Apple Calendar, and I promise this is something that you don't want to miss. So go ahead, click on the link and step into the world where learning knows no boundaries. Till then, keep enjoying. I'll see you in the next video.
Well, that was part two where we looked at resources, resource groups, management groups, subscriptions, and how they tie to each other. I hope you got a better clarity now on these topics. If you have any questions, leave them under comment section as well, so that my team can help and guide you as well. Now, just to do, as I said at the start, if you want to be notified and the part three, as well as the anything useful about Microsoft Azure Cloud, I would highly recommend you to join a WhatsApp announcement group if you've not yet joined by going to k21academy.com/Azure WA. Also, if you do the part one, everything I'm going to put it into our single page, which is k21academy.com/Azure day one. That's where we'll have all the videos broken down into. And if you have not yet watched, and if you're jumping somewhere in the middle, and if you've not watched, watch the day one, especially the first part. And if you want cloud for absolute beginners, if you've not seen k21academy.com/cloud01, this is a continuity. We'll have cloud for absolute beginners and then for Azure cloud, and this part two. And tomorrow on next, which is part three, we are going to look at, let me quickly go on to this part three. We're going to look at Azure management tools, which are going to be Azure Portal, which is a graphical user interface, Cloud Shell, and within Cloud Shell, there are two parts, Bash and PowerShell. And then we're going to look at CLI, which is command line interface, SDK, infrastructure code, which is ARM templates, and Azure Biceps. So I'll see you tomorrow, which is on part three. Take care. And by the way, this is Atul signing off. Thanks for watching, and do share, don't forget to share with your friends, colleagues these videos if you're enjoying, and do give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying these videos, please.